Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Been super busy, got the interns on the farm and that just soaked up a lot of time. You got to show the guys all the ropes and go around and make sure they're getting on okay, so you haven't seen so much stuff, but we're getting there now, going really well. And this video we've had some really good weather. I've been trying to get this video together for the last 3 days and it's been really windy, so there's going to be some parts of the video that are really windy. Sorry guys, if it's too annoying for you, turn me off, but there's a bit of an update on the farm and how we're getting on. Okay, so it's moving day for these guys and I've already got half of them out. I do it very simple. I'm only going around the corner, so I just use a crate. I put 25 in at a time, and when you're working on your own, you really got to get the animals to work with you. So the chicks are hungry now. They haven't been fed this morning. We're about an hour after feed. So what I do is I go in, I take in my crate, I sprinkle a little bit of feed in the trough. They all come over. I lift in 25 nice and carefully, and then we bring them outside. And here we have them in the chicken tractor. Sorry about the shadow, guys. And I've got 125 in here. Now this is a Salton style pen, 3 by 4 meters, 12 by 10 foot. Typically this was designed for 75 birds, but that was 75 adult birds. These guys are only going to be in here for about a week. So I put in 125 because I've got 200 in my batch. And just mats, I'm going to run 2 tractors. I could run 3, but 2 tractors are faster. And I can move these twice a day if I want. I normally move them once a day. It's generally low, ample, fresh pasture for these guys. But if I need to, I can move them twice a day. And I generally, the first day or two that I move them outside, I increase their feed, just to give them a bit of extra energy, because they get adapted. Again, it's a big change for them. So I don't want to reduce their stress a little bit by not having them competing too much for food. So they get almost free choice food for kind of today and a little bit of tomorrow, and then they go back onto their food plan. And I find it just helps a little bit reduce the stress. And any of the smaller chickens, because you will see they're a fairly even batch, but there is a couple of guys that are getting left behind. Here's one here, this little guy here. See the difference in those two? So that giving that free choice to food for a day or two just gives these guys a chance to adapt, and that they don't get absolutely pushed out of the feeder. And these guys are actually going to get another feeding trough. There should be 4 feeding troughs in here, and they've got their water over there. So I got to get the other 125 into this tractor here. Mortality on this batch has been, it's a wee bit better for me. The mortality on this batch has been very good. It's been just, it's on 2% now in the brooder, which is good. We can always do better, but much better than last year. So I'm really happy with that. And the system seems to be starting to work out now. We've still got a good few weeks to go, so that mortality, I would expect it to go up another little bit, but hopefully the weather plays ball and the birds have a good time on pasture. So we don't count the chicks when we get them from the hatchery. We just assume the hatchery give us what we order. They generally give you 1 to 2% over. So there was 250 in this batch. I lost 5 chicks and I've actually still got 250. So what that means is my mortality is almost 2%, 1.9, and they actually put in that in extra chicks. So that's pretty much me where I need to be. And these guys now will just get settled in and we'll keep a close eye on them and get them used to life in pasture. They'll do about a week in here, depending on the weather. They'll do a week in here, and then we'll move them when they're big enough that I'm not too worried about aerial predators. We'll move them into the roller pen system. Opened hive at the farm here, and they just started to build loads of comb in the roof, and they're saving loads of honey in it. So this has to come out and they get more frames. What will I do with this honey? This is one of the joys of beekeeping. Some beautiful spring honey. Oh, that's very sweet. I don't swallow the wax either. I spit that out. You could. I'm sure it will come out the other end. This is a little area at the side of the farm. down to the houses belong to my sisters. I call it Biodiversity Lane, which you can see the wild garlic is in full bloom. Bees have really been working that for the last few days. So we just opened up, this is last year's compost or bedding from the chickens. It's broken down quite a bit. It definitely needs some more time, but it'll do the job we're using it for. We're going to take this, we'll take some of it back in to grow tomatoes in, but a little bit late in the season, but better late than never. We are putting it on our berry bushes, so these are honeyberry, and we're also putting it around our fruit trees, just to give them a little boost, a little feed. We have been pretty bad keeping the grass competition, like it out of the light. We have been pretty bad keeping the grass down, but it's not too bad. But as the summer goes on, we need to be careful here. So this is going to give us a few weeks grace, and then we'll probably have to come around here in hand. We did a little bit this summer because I did put wood chip down in these last year, but probably nowhere near enough. And I need to put down some sort of mulch mat or something, and it's just not in the budget really, and I couldn't be bothered doing loads of cardboard. So I might just spend maybe over the summer, maybe spend 4 hours, maybe, I reckon, 2 people going at it. So eight man hours. I think we can weed these maybe twice or 3 times in the summer and give them enough. I think once I give them another year or 2, when I get them high enough, they're going to be way above any grass pressure then, and they should be fine. But again, berries we're not making a living off of the berries here, so it's not essential that we're getting the maximum crop out of them. It's more for homestead, and we can sell any excess, so that's why they're not getting as much attention as maybe they should if you were going to be a commercial operation. This morning's eggmobile move, we're just moving the eggmobile actually backwards a little bit. So got our new paddock set up right here, and we're in the next lane down. And so very simply, I'm working in reverse here, so I've just tied off. I want to keep my angle pretty out, so that's why I went way back to keep me a straight angle, because I just want to come straight back here. And I've got a mountain hook on the back of the eggmobile, so I just hook onto it, and now I'm going to pull backwards. And it's just going to slowly come back towards me, and then once we get it back to here, we stop, because we're going to take the front of it and head off that way tomorrow, day after tomorrow. I'm actually loving this new eggmobile. It's so maneuverable, such low impact in the pasture, yet can carry so many birds. I'm just catching the tree a little there, so I've got to keep an eye on that. I've already walked down there and checked all around to make sure everything is okay, so that I'm not running over anything. How low stress is this in the morning? Solar powered, not too noisy. You know, I'm not starting up a big tractor in the morning or revving. Well, I do start my quad, but I'm not doing excessive revving. It's sitting there nice and idle, so the neighbours aren't hearing all loads of noise. I'm just going to go down now and check the front, make sure the axle isn't twisting any way funny on me. I do, when I'm pulling this backwards, I do have to manage the front axle. I could take the quad down and put it on the front, and I could steer it as I pull backwards, because all I gotta really do, and one chicken here that got out the door when I opened the door, I could actually steer this going backwards as well by taking the quad and hooking onto this and pulling it left or right. Now this is 2 days impact on the eggmobile, which is going to be, for me it's the perfect amount, it's not too much. So I'm going to continue. You can see we're turning a little bit. I want to kind of avoid that a little bit, because I don't want to end up in the trees up there. So I might even take the quad down and pull on this a little bit. Just getting the morning move up, and we're starting to move into some proper dense grass. This stuff was only grazed about 6 weeks ago, and yeah, A lot of it's going to seed here now, or trying to, so eating it now will hopefully keep some of it in a vegetated state, and we'll get a little bit more good production out of the grass. And Jesse bears play another stick. Hang here. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, these guys are ready for some fresh grass. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Off they go. Cows are coming next. Come on. Come on, cows. There we go. Let's move along. There's some nice grass waiting for you down here. The first day to take them through here, it took me about 20 minutes. Now they just, this is only their third time coming through this little bit, and they're like they're seasoned veterans. It's been a little bit windy today, sorry guys. So Lorena's and Ernest have been busy mulching out our tree lanes here. We can see we've got some gooseberries coming in, and I don't know if there's any. You can see some young honeyberries here. And if we go further along, we'll see some more developed. And see some of these guys here starting to put on some more colour. So there's some honeyberries. And we're a bit late, but we're giving them a good feed of compost. That will keep the competition from the grass at bay a little bit. You can see this guy here didn't make it so good. He is a cider making apple, which you can actually see he's put on a sucker from the bottom, and looks like that is above the graft. If we pull this up, so yeah, so the graft is down here. So he's actually got some life there. It looks like he had a hard out go of it, so we'll give him another year and see what he's doing next year, if this can come on. If not, maybe we'll change him out. Overall, I think I've had like maybe 90% of my trees take, and these are cider making apple trees, and they're quite slow to put on their leaf. And you can see I did have some damage from hares here, and I didn't prune these guys this year. I just let them go, just to give them a chance. I felt maybe I was over pruning. I was getting a bit trigger happy with the prunes, with the shears, secateurs, I think. So these honeyberries have really done well now. You can see they're about 2 foot high, and if they get a good season under them now, I'll not have to worry about them so much anymore. And our gooseberries are doing pretty well too. See some of these fruit just starting to turn colour. This last row of gooseberries didn't do so good. I've lost a few, so I've put in 3 different varieties. Don't ask me what they are, I haven't noted, but the first 2 varieties done pretty well. This last variety didn't do so good, so what I'll do is I'll take cuttings from the first 2 and replant these here, because I know they do better in this condition. But overall I'm really happy with how the fruit trees and berry bushes are progressing. We were just talking about the berry bushes and the trees in the farm today. We need to be very clear here. I've invested, now counting one breaks as well, almost somewhere in the region of €7,500 in berry bushes and trees. And guys, that was money, that was personal money of mine, hobby money that I spent on that. I could not afford, if I had limited resources starting up this farm, I would not be spending that money on fruit trees that are not going to return anything for like 5 years. It's just not clever. But I had money available. I had spare cash, from outside of farming, and it was a hobby. I wanted to plant these trees, but by no means, take that €7,500, and I started this farm 3 years ago. I could have built 2 egg mobiles, could have housed 600 chickens. Those would have turned over about €60,000 and made me about €30,000 a year for my €7,500. Putting it into fruit, trees and berry bushes, I mean, I'm going to have 5 years before I see anything back. And even at that, you know, I'm right in the Atlantic here. It's high risk. I need to find varieties that work. So, you know, it's going to take me a long time to see that money back. But again, this is a part of the hobby of the farm. This is homesteading. It's not the economics of the farm. I had this money available. You know, if you're starting off your farm and you've got a limited cash, don't go thinking you're going to plant loads of trees unless it's in your context to be a fruit producer and you're deadly serious about it. In my context here, you know, guys, don't copy me in this sense. I had the money available to do it. I wasn't tight on cash, so it worked for me. And I wanted to plant them early because I knew it would take them a long time to establish. But I knew I wanted fruit trees and berry bushes, and they didn't have to make an economical comeback. For me, it's more of an insurance. In the event of a year that I mess up and I don't have a diverse enough portfolio and I get hit with maybe 2 or 3 unforeseen bombshells and my income is looking very unsteady, I will take this fruit production and value add the crap to it. You know, make preserves, make pies, make whatever I can, and just get me through that year. But I'm really thinking about this stuff. I was thinking of the future. I've got loads of nieces and nephews on the farm, and you know, they're only like between, you know, the oldest is 4 now, but in another 4 or 5 years, when these trees are really coming into the maturity and really starting to produce, they're going to be looking for pocket money in the summertime. What better thing for them to do than come here, pick loads of fruit and turn them into something and then make some pocket money for themselves. They're going to learn valuable life skills and business skills on how to generate business, how to deal with customers, etc. And it means, you know, Uncle Cahill here isn't handing them money for nothing. So that there's kind of why the trees are here. So it's evening time. The chickens are just in this pasture behind me, and they're going to be moving tomorrow afternoon. We're depending where we are on the farm, but I like to do afternoon moves as opposed to morning moves. Just frees up my mornings, doesn't make them as hectic. So our interns, Lorena's, has just set up, so the next day's paddock is already set up. So we're going to come in here tomorrow afternoon. I'll take his with us, hopefully, if the weather's favourable, and we're just going to grab the egg mobile. We open up this paddock into the new paddock. We'll hook on our winch onto our egg mobile and we'll just pull it right forward, right up to here. In fact, we'll probably try and pull it as far into this paddock as possible. And then we'll feed the chickens up here, or we might feed them just before we move. That'll bring all the birds up, and then we just close the fence behind, move everything and make sure they're happy. One thing I will show you, I did have massive fox got in. Yes, it happened. How did it happen? Me being an idiot, that's how it happened. I had the regulators coming, like I was talking about, so I wanted things to look really nice, so I give them 4 nets, you know, thinking, yeah, things will look nice. Always do what you've always done, because if it works, it works. I give them 4 nets. Of course the fence wasn't hitting nowhere near as hot. Fox got in. I think it took I didn't do a full count yet, but it took at least 15 hens, I think. This time of year they're really hungry, and he didn't take them. He killed a few and just left them there, and I'm kind of guessing what he took with them. So what I've done, and again, I should have done this is completely my fault, no one to blame but myself, but I've come and I've put on this hot wire. So if we walk down, I think the intern should have done it right now, but if we walk down here, the fence should be now hooked up to the hot wire as opposed to the fence. So nighttime, that wire hits like 8,000, because it's only 100 meters of single strand wire, with a 5 joule fencer on it. It is hitting hot. I wouldn't like to touch that. And what do we see here? I've just done it on a simple galler reel, same thing as I do for my turkeys. It works for the fox, no problem. And yeah, so you can see, oh sorry guys, I'm about to fall over. So here's our fencer right here, and it's hooked on. So during the day we hook it onto our fence here, and what that does is it keeps the chickens in the fence. If they start to kind of move on the fence, it keeps them jolting off it. It hits like the top I can get 250 meter nets to is about 3,000 volts at a push. There is just so much fence. There's actually 12 rows, so there's 12 times the amount of wire than this one wire. And I've got a 5 joule energizer on there, and that's as hard as it can hit. And I am eating this grass down pretty tight with the cattle and the sheep. So that'll tell you, like 250 meter nets is a lot of net, and I could never get it any hotter than that, even the best to try. So this is the best solution I can know of. If you do face predator pressure, you got to drop the fence at night. You're just not going to get it hot enough for that real hungry hard fence. Now bearing in mind, I did really feck myself up by putting 4 nets on there. Probably wasn't even hitting like 2,000. But I like this idea of having this, like this line here is super hot. It's hitting 8,000, maybe on a dry night 10,000. Like anybody, fox is my main predator, or a mink, anybody comes along and touches that thing, they ain't coming back for a week for sure. And the chickens tend to not want to like put any pressure on the fence in the evening. We come along at like 7-8 o'clock and switch that over. I've been trying to come up with an automated version, but it's very difficult to put in a flip switch with 10,000 volts, because 10,000 volts can jump quite a bit. I've been using some of the switches that I use for other stuff, but the switch doesn't move enough, and the 10,000 volts can jump straight across it. But I'll figure it out. I just need to look out there and find something that has an application for something else, but it will work for that. Or if anybody out there knows of a timer switch that physically moves a lot. Most timer switches, if you're changing from one switch to another, it's only actually moving a tiny bit, because you're only ever like maybe 230 volts is the highest you're doing. You don't have to clear it that much to absolutely clear the zone of arc, but with 10,000 volts the spark can jump across quite a bit. So I'm trying to figure that one out, because I would like to put a timer on that, and or a switch basically where I've got 2 wires coming out. I've got a wire going to my main fence, I've got a wire going to my hot wire, and I just set the time and it will automatically switch over. Haven't totally figured it out yet, but I'm going to, because I don't want to forget. That's the key. The thing is, the fox, I have to get lucky every night that I remember to come and do it. The fox only used to get lucky one night, and I want to take human error out of that. I am the problem. So I need to try and eliminate me out of that and automate it. It's quite windy, but this is the grass. We're now in, the grass is almost knee height, it's over knee height. And we're starting to graze this. I didn't pull out a great grass there. Let me see. I pulled this guy. So what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 through leaves. We're heading on to our 5th through leaf, which is just where we wanted when we're grazing. And we've got beautiful grass ahead of us. This has been rested now this has been grazed twice this year already. So we had kept it as winter stockpile, and then we grazed it, and so that was about 6 weeks ago, 35 days ago, and spring growth has kicked off here. So we can really start to move now with the cows. Now the only thing is, I want to slow down a little bit on this farm, because we don't have as good a fodder in the other farm. So I want to maybe hold them back a little bit on this good fodder, and then move faster on the stuff that's not as good. So that means for me, I'm just staying in slightly smaller paddocks in here than I would normally. And I'm just doing that to try and even out the diet for the cows. I don't want them on the rough fodder for too long and then come on to the good fodder, because they get problems where when they come on to this fodder, they get it's too high in protein and their digestive system can't handle it, so they're going to scour for a little bit. And then once I get them used to this, it'll be like time to move off it again. So I'm just trying to manage that while I get the other farm into a better state. But this is some good quality fodder for making beef, lamb and milk. Happy days. And you can see the rushes here, definitely. We've still got some of them in the field. This field isn't great. Like if we look down here, we can still see bare ground. Now this bare ground is actually, if we could zoom in, has got material covering it. So that's grass from last year that we trampled down, so it's not technically bare.
and we're just trying to get more plants growing here, more grass plants. And we can see these rushes have loads of grasses growing through them, so we are getting there slowly. But it takes time, guys. It all takes time.
Apologies for the wind, guys. Really windy, but we've just moved the guys onto fresh pasture. Behind, so we're trying to get as best a herd effect as we can, trampling, tossing, eating, dunging, urinating, and moving forward. Happy days. So we go from this to this in 24 hours. We're on daily moves here. We're not a big operation. If you were a big herbivore operation, I'm sure you'd probably maybe consider twice daily moves. I see a lot of the big grass-based operators I follow in the States do at least two. Some of them do multiple moves in the day, and that seems to work really well for them. Day moves works for us, and we're happy with that. Okay, we're in our second paddock. We've got our rope tied onto a big tree in there, and we're up high so we won't touch the fence. Chickens are all in the new paddock, pretty much over here. Once we start to move, if there's too many of them around the Eggmobile, we'll just feed them down here. But we've just opened our two paddocks in together, so these white posts are where the old paddock was. And now we're just going to start up our winch and pull it across. So you can see here we're doing a full 90-degree turn, so we're going to pivot the axle all the way around and pull the Eggmobile this way. I've come around, I've had next to no clearance. You've seen it a minute ago how much clearance I had, but by being able to swing right around, I'm just fit to turn this almost on its own axle, and now off we go. And you can see the majority of the chickens are all down there anyway. I've got a few here, so I'll just watch them as I'm moving. Very slow and controlled, nice and steady. It's very safe because we're moving at such a slow pace. I need to get out of the way before I get hit. I've got time to stop and check. And as you can see, no chickens are in underneath the house. There's no chance of anybody getting crushed. And we're also leaving very little marks on the ground. Jesse's there making sure nobody's getting caught. This is handy for moving the chickens along. I have the controller here. I have a remote controller, but I like to use this because it means when I'm using a remote controller, sometimes I walk away from the Eggmobile, and I do this as kind of a gimmick to keep me close by and paying attention. My plan was with the remote controller is that I would actually just set it to go and go off and move the net, but I think that's a little bit irresponsible, so that's why I do it this way. Now I'm going to have to reset my winch here. What I do is I go back and move it up. I move 30 meters at a time, and we're actually going to move like 60 meters here, so I'm going to move 2 full pulls and then off we go again.